Thanks for staying with Newsnight. While one aviation expert believes government needs to just bite the bullet and sell off state-owned airlines, SA Express is once again airborne. This is after being grounded for 3 months over poor maintenance. The airline has since lost most of its routes to competitors. SA Fly magazine editor Guy Leitch has written extensively about the troubles at SA Express and SAA. He joins us now from our Cape Town studios. Good evening, Guy. Certainly, over the years, you are one of those who would be deemed one of the prophets of doom and gloom. But certainly, when one looks at the financials of SA Express and the turnaround strategy that they're trying to put in place, it doesn't look like they have a very bright future.
Yeah, hi Kathy, nice to be with you. I think that is the hard truth, I'm afraid, that the airline hasn't put together a strategy, a proposal, even a budget that the parliamentary committee is prepared to believe in. So it hasn't made the funds available at this stage. And that means that the airline is not going to be able to get its aircraft back in the air. It needed a lot of those funds to try and get the aircraft that have been grounded through the maintenance cycle and into service again, and that's just not happening at this stage. Also, it's lost a lot of its routes to other airlines, to competitor airlines like Airlink and even Mango that are flying its passengers, and it's going to struggle to convince passengers to come back and fly SA Express again.
Well, the carrier's acting CEO, Caesar Mzimela, feels rather confident now that they've been able to get at least 6 of their aircraft back in the air. Are you optimistic about that?
With all due respect to Caesar Mzimela, and she has had certainly a reasonable track record at SAA and at SA Express before that, the airline is operating, in your words, 6 of its aircraft. It's not likely to get all its routes back in any quick hurry. I believe it's not going to start operating from Cape Town before next year. So it's carrying a huge overhead still because it hasn't really cut staff. It hasn't really cut pilots. It's got the massive cost of getting the aircraft back in the air. So no, I don't see that it's going to be able to turn itself around quickly in any sense. And bear in mind that SAA, or rather the Department of State-Owned Enterprises, has been pushing for SAA to take over the airline or to incorporate the airline back into SAA. So there's no point in rebuilding all its own operational capability if it's going to be merged with SAA.
What about the review of contracts at SA Express? Do you think that that will have a significant impact in terms of helping the airline identify perhaps excess weight, for lack of a better phrase, that they are carrying in terms of payments that they need to give to people on that front? And could that not ease part of that financial strain that they're currently under?
Well, yes, obviously the airline is sitting on significant pre-bookings, but it's also true that it's going to be using those pre-bookings to fund its flights as they become available. So it's not a significant resource for it. The fact of the matter is the airline hasn't made a profit for the last 8 years, and it's extremely unlikely that it's going to make a profit going forward because it's lost a lot of market share. The market has become a whole lot tougher, and its aircraft have just got older and require even more maintenance. At the same time, it's lost a lot of confidence from the travelling public, who would now rather travel with another airline rather than with an airline like SA Express, which has got a, shall we say, a dodgy maintenance history and has in fact had the actual severe sanction of being grounded by the Civil Aviation Authority. So I think if it was bad a year ago, it's now in a much worse position.
And certainly when we look at the issue of contracts and how excessive some of them may be, Guy, it seems that there may be more to that than meets the eye, because one of the board members also being open to the fact that the airline could very well be called to give some kind of evidence within the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, or at least saying that if they are called on to do so, they will avail themselves. And this is in relation to the nature of some of those contracts that they have.
Indeed, because SA Express has tended to operate below the radar or in the shadow of its big sister SAA, it hasn't been subject to the same media scrutiny that SAA has, and there certainly have been indications that it was a target for state capture, for enormous misappropriation in terms of procurement, particularly around the fuel. The fuel was in fact being supplied by SAA. A really crude attempt was made to try and take over the fuel supply essentially for crooked purposes. That's probably indicative of corruption throughout the airline. Again, the airline is in a much worse position now than it was before. It needs very strong governance just to rebuild that capability when people do not know whether their jobs will be secure because of the pending SAA takeover is going to be extremely difficult. The hard truth is that Airlink as a private competitor is doing a much better job, and SA Express should probably be just merged with South African Airways.
Very briefly, guys, should they be given that 1 billion injection that they're asking for from government?
Well, from a purely society development point of view, a case can be made for that because there are a lot of jobs at stake. There are some routes to small towns being serviced, but quite frankly, the fiscus, the government, we the taxpayers cannot afford to keep bailing out these airlines. So I'm afraid the tough answer really just has to be no.
All right, that's where we leave it for tonight. SA Fly magazine editor Guy Leitch giving us his take on some of the problems that are plaguing SA Express.